Hey everybody, my name is Jeffu, and I'm one of the co-founders of WebForce Development, where we make really cool stuff like the thing you see behind us in the background. We make cool chatbots, automations, and whatnot for companies that want to pay us for them, which is really fun and really cool. We also own a school where we teach people like you AI automations, and we give them templates, and we have coaching calls and whatever. It's really fun. This video in particular, though, we're talking about the biggest mistake that I personally think that AI agency owners make, and not even just AI agency owners. I think agency owners in general or business owners in general, and we'll talk about it in a second. So I'm going to break this video up in a few parts. In the last video, I kind of gave a big overview of what we're going to talk about over the next few videos. In this video, we're going to talk about the ICP a little bit, and then we'll go into detail in the next video a little bit more about the ICP. That's your client. We call her Betty. But then we're going to talk about how to actually go out and get developers to make your stuff. So that's going to take a little bit because I think it's a very important skill to develop. I think it's probably the best skill you can probably develop early on. So as an agency owner, you are a cash positive business. Okay, get that in your head. You are never, unless you are trying to get people to do work for free for, which you only do that at the very beginning. Right. So if you are trying to get testimonials underneath your name, if you're trying to build something so you can just have work underneath your name, then yeah, you can do some stuff for free. Okay. That's the only time I give you permission to do that. After that, you are a cash positive business. And at that point, you should be, in my opinion, start hiring people to do stuff because there's so many things that you have to do. And in order to scale, you should learn how to interview, learn how to delegate, and learn how to eliminate tasks that don't need to be done. Okay, so what do we do? What are we doing here? Well, the first thing we're going to talk about is the questions you should be asking the developer, but also how do we get those questions? How do we know like what to build in the first place? So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the user, and we'll get kind of granular about that. So there's something called a user story. There's user experience. And all that is a fancy way of breaking down the user journey into small chunks. And what's really cool about breaking it down in a chunk like that, you can actually break down the development cycle of each tool. So if I were a user for, let's say, Facebook, for example, or this chatbot, right? Let's actually go ahead and just open this up real fast and we'll see what happens and just kind of think about the user journey, my experience, what I might want from this. I'm coming to this website. It's called an AI bud tender, so we all know what I'm here for. I go to the bottom right, I click on this thing, and I should be greeted. Let me click off. Sorry. There we go. And as it loads up, as a user, I would like to be greeted. I would like to have buttons. I would like to be able to type, right? These are all different things. These are all different requirements that I'm going to ask of the developer who's making the chatbot, right? As a user, I would like to put in my email so I can get into the loyalty program. As a user, I would like to pick what flavor I would like. I like to pick the terpenes. I would like to pick the size, shape, whatever choices I need to make along my user journey. That needs to be broken down. Okay. So what we'll do in this video is I'll show you a few tools and tips that I use now. There's some really cool GPTs, and there's one called PRD or Chat PRD, which means product requirement document. And a requirement document is something you should get very used to. It basically just lays out all the requirements for your product, for the thing that you're actually going to sell and get made by your developer, right? And even if you aren't getting a developer to make this, you should make this for yourself. And while I'm talking about, let's go ahead and look at what that would look like now. All right, so I, with the magic of the internet and editing, I made something called, it was just a fruit snack website, right? So this is a PRD, it's a project requirement document, and it's going to lay out every single thing that I should be able to give a developer or myself, and I should have a very vivid image of what this app or this product or this chatbot, whatever you're making, should look like. You can do this for voice calls and whatever. And it's basically going to lay out all of the user all the situations in which the user is going to get into, right? And another thing I like to do is I like to make flowcharts along with this. So we'll show you the flow chart afterwards. But for this, we'll just show the document. So what are our goals, right? So this should be like the first thing you should think about as a business owner, as an agency owner. So like in these videos, and these are all for beginners, somebody who's like their first time getting into AI, first time to get into business probably. You need to be thinking about what your AI goals are. Or so, not your AI goals, your business goals are, right? And it should be to make money, right? That's what you should be doing. So when I think about these things, the idea with software is to make 80% profit margins, right? Now, there's different ways we can calculate that. Just for simplicity's sake, let's just say a chatbot costs, the client gives you $1,000, right? And you you get charged by the chatbot developer $200 to make that. Okay, you have an 80% profit margin on there. There's other calculations, taxes, and everything else, but we'll just for simplicity's sake, that's the margins that I like to live in. Now, is that reality? No, it's not all the time. But ideally, that's where we'll live. We'll live at an 80% profit margin. That gives us time and space, right, to have money distributed if we need to. If that one developer screws us over, we have time and money to get other developers, get help, and figure it out, right? You always want to give yourself two things, and when you're bidding on things, and that's one is time, and the other thing is enough money to just in case the person making it for you right now screws up, you can hire somebody else and have enough time to hire somebody else, right? All right, so business goals. When you're actually sending out proposals to do these things, just thinking about don't just throw out a random number. Throw out a number that makes sense. And one of the best ways I find to find these numbers is to go interview developers. Like even before you have the job, like if you know for the job you're going to need VoiceFlow, well, guess what you should go do? You should go and interview as many VoiceFlow devs as possible. I made a LinkedIn post titled, I interviewed over 100 VoiceFlow devs on Upwork and Fiverr and did really well. But it's something I really did, right? So, and that was just for like a few jobs. It wasn't for like a lot of jobs. Like I obsessively interview, which is why I think and I also think it's a very important skill to have. It's probably the most important skill you should have as a agency owner, because the people that you hire to do the things for you are direct persona, their direct comparison of who you are. So whenever that work gets done, that it shows the work you've done, right? And that goes for employees, that goes for VAs, that goes for executive assistants, that goes for founders, other co-founders and whatnot. Like, it's your business. So whenever somebody does work for your business, that's just a part of you. So, getting the best talent and not having to pay, top of the line price for that comes down to interviewing, right? A lot of times with these developers, they know that if you don't know how to write these type of documents, if you don't give them like enough detail to work with, enough direction to work with, then they can do a few things. One is they can just like tell you, oh yeah, it's going to take me like 6 weeks to do this thing that should only take 2 or 3 days. I promise it'll happen. I've interviewed enough people and asked them. One of the best ways I think to learn something, like if you don't know VoiceFlow, if you don't know Make, if you don't know that, like go just interview developers. Say you have a job that you want to get made, or even post a job you want to get made. Give a budget, $100, $200, whatever it is, $50, depending on what it is, and just start interviewing developers and say like, hey, I want this made, and ask them questions. Ask them, how would you get this done? This is what I want. How would you get it done? What's the process? Give me your requirements that you would want. Give me some example data. Give me some example, example work. And that's one of the things that like I go off of. I will never hire anybody unless they give me proof of work, and I make sure when you see me work, I make sure that like you made it, because I've had it happen too many times where I went to hire a developer and it was somebody else's work, right? Or it was a template or something that's like there was a VoiceFlow dev that was tried to sell me another YouTuber's templates, and I was like, dude, you left the guy's face on there, right? Like, come on, dude. Like, what is wrong with you? This stuff happens all the time. They'll like, especially with ChatGPT now, they'll just copy code, and which is fine. I want you to use ChatGPT, but like, I want you to use it. I don't want you to abuse it. I don't want you like to use it as a, the sole purpose. I need you to know how to do this stuff as well, right? So Anyways, business goals. But you also have, going into this second part is user goals. So like as a business, we want one thing. As a user, we want another, right? As a user, I want to have a good experience. I want a very frictionless experience, which is why I think like chatbots are doing really, really good. And you have an amazing company like VoiceFlow that is removing as much friction as they possibly can from the user experience, which is amazing, right? And you've seen in the chatbot we made that you can actually go from signing in to all the way to the purchase in one page. You never have to leave. It's a seamless experience. It's really cool, and you can actually type in, have a conversation with the chatbot. It's phenomenal. It's great, right? Anyways, so let's actually read here. So I actually made this fake website. It's called a fruit snack website, and the idea is the user can pick between 20 different flavors of fruits. It's kind of mimic the bud tender thing we had, but a little different. But this is an e-commerce chatbot, and I kind of go through the user goals. So they want to quickly find fruit snacks that match their flavor, their dietary and texture preferences. Easily get detailed product information, including ingredients and nutritional facts. Seamlessly add products to their cart and proceed to checkout. This is all important. And get assistance from a human agent for complex queries if needed. Okay. Non-goals. Now, non-goals are super important. I talk about this all the time. There needs to be a certain level of like what's not in the scope here, because there needs to be a box when you make a product. All right. When you're actually like selling something, when you're talking to your client, they need to know the exact scope, which is your box that this thing's going to live in. And whenever it's like whenever you go to buy a house, okay, as a real estate agent, I tell you, I give you pictures of the house. We actually go walk and look inside the house, and it'd be like, you walk into this house. It's a beautiful house. We all agree it's a beautiful house. We agree to pay for the house, and then like, okay, we go to a signing, and the person's like, man, it would be really nice if there was a pool in the back, in a jump house, and like 3 sheds and a yacht, and you're like, yeah, man, that'd be awesome. And then they're like, yeah, can you make that happen? And you're like, for the same amount of money? No, but and they're like, oh, why not? It'd be cool, right? That would never happen. But for some reason in software, I guess because it's all like imaginary internet numbers, that people just think you can just, make it happen like that. And scope creep is a real thing. So there needs to be a box of like what you can and cannot do and what you're willing to do, within the budget. Now, there's always some wiggle room, but having that concrete box around of what you actually want to build and what you're going to deliver is super important. Having the customer know exactly what they're getting is paramount, right? And that it should be communicated at least 20 times. Let me think. Yeah, probably at least 20 times. Anyways, so non-goals. The chatbot will not replace human agents entirely, but assist them by handling repetitive queries, which we're getting to the point where they can handle, level 2 queries, which is good. It will not manage non-fruit snack product categories. This is really important. Okay. So like we're saying, okay, if you sell other products besides fruit snacks, this is not going to handle that. This is just for the fruit snacks. So like, for the customer, they know when they read this document, they sign on this thing, they're like, okay, I expect to get this, and I know that it's not going to handle my underwear line. It's only going to handle the fruit snack line. Okay, great. You sign on this if they ever ask you, hey, why don't you, or can you, or why don't you do the underwear line? You're like, well, look, man, like that's going to take more time and money. Let's finish this first, and then we can actually send you another proposal for the underwear line. If you do not set these boundaries, people will, just because they're like interested and they care about this stuff, they're gonna be like, oh man, it'd be really cool if you can add this and add that, and scope creep is just gonna destroy both of you, and it's just gonna keep dragging on. All right, user stories. We used to have to do these by hand. So what a user story is think about it as like a checklist. And you can actually give these to the developer and say like, this is a user story that I want to, like whenever this is finished, you can actually check this off a box. You can put this on your Kanban, you can put this wherever, and I want you to go in and handle this task, right? So as a user, and just notice the formatting of this, okay? So it's as a user, I want X, right? So as a user, as an admin, as a painter, as a man, as a woman, as a child. So just as a user, it just kind of identifies who's using this thing, right? And this can change. You can see it like as an admin. So like if I wanted to add in like as the admin, I want to be able to change everyone's password, right? Or like I would like to, as the admin, I like to change the background of the website, right? That should be a user story as well, right? As a user, I want to quickly find fruit snacks that match my flavor preferences so I don't have to browse through the entire category, right? That's its own line. As a user, I want to know if a product meets my dietary restrictions so I can safely consume without adverse effects. You can kind of see where this is going, right? Like, and you can make as many as yeah, you can make as many of these as you would like, okay? And it just, just make sure they make sense in the actual, requirements of your actual product, right? Then we have the user journey. So like this is what the customer is going to experience when they go to your website. When you came to when I showed you my chatbot earlier, it is it greets you, right? Then it gets a collection of your preferences. So like, what do you want? Do you want like what's the texture of the gummies you want? What is the flavor profile? Dietary restrictions, all that stuff. So then it gets recommendations. So then they actually go to the API, right? And it'll go to the API and it'll say, okay, well, first off, do we actually have this in stock, right? If it has it in stock, then it'll actually say, hey, do you want to add this to your cart? And if you want to add it to your cart, then it'll say, okay, do you want to check out? And if you don't check out, it'll say, okay, I'll do it again. Okay, cool. What else do you want to add to your cart, right? And then it'll make recommendations. That's why these things like work really well. And then, of course, you can, add to your cart and check out. And then worst case scenario, you can actually fall back to a human agent. I think this is great. Awesome. Acceptance criteria. Okay, so like this is like cut and dry. Okay, whenever we actually hand this off to you, all right, and let's talk about payment for a second. So yeah, let's pause for a second. Sorry. All right, so let's talk about payment. And we won't go into too much detail. But when you have longer projects, let's just say this. So when any size project, I usually like to break these things into two payments. So we'll do half and half, right? We'll do half upfront. That gives me enough money to pay for all my developers, for any software. Like it should cover the majority of the cost, especially if we're at 80% profit margin. It should actually cover the cost and then some of my profit, right? Awesome. But in order to get so like we'll say, okay, in the schedule of payments, we'll say you're going to give us half this money up front. And then once these acceptance criteria get met, then we'll be considered delivered, right? And you pay us the other half, right? That's the agreement. Great. Okay, so these acceptance criteria are very important, okay? Because both sides need to agree. All this other stuff is great and it's all important. But this right here needs to be the things that everybody is crystal clear on, that once like all these words treated as gospel, okay? The chatbot greets users and collects all preferences for flavor, dietary restrictions, and textures, okay? Check. All right, once that's checked off, both parties agree. All right, great. We agree on this. Awesome. The chatbot queries the FruitStack API and provides personalized recommendations. Check. We agree on that. And once all these things get checked off, then we say, okay, great. So we deliver the chatbot, and then now you send us the other half of the money. Great. Awesome. Now for longer tasks, what we'll do is we'll have like milestones. Okay, but those milestones will have their own acceptance criteria. Or they'll say like, okay, this is going to take us 6 months to build. You just pay us every month, right? And we'll just, or every, you can either do milestones or you can do monthly. You can break it how you want to. I prefer milestones. But it just, at that point, just break it down where you say, okay, you're going to pay us half, or you're going to pay us, if it's like a $20,000 project, maybe you just do, and it's going to take you 6 months. Maybe just go, okay, every month you just pay us X amount of money, or 3 lump sums, however you want to do it, but use acceptance criteria at the very end so everybody's satisfied with the final product, right? Cool. Security, integrations, yep, that's all cool. Technical considerations, milestones, yep, it's all good, and then you'll have a timeline. Again, you can show your budget and all that stuff. All right, cool. So we're at 20 minutes. Great. So what did we talk about in this video? yeah, we talked about the product requirement document and interviewing. So we'll do another video on interviewing because this one's super important, and we'll touch on this again. But you know, we'll use all this stuff to ask questions, to kind of filter questions to the developers. All right, I've interviewed a lot of developers, a lot of people just in general, and the clearer that you can make this message, and so they can see the big picture, the better, right? So let's actually just real fast. I do want to show one other thing. All right, so the other thing I'll show off whenever I'm going to a developer is I like to have some type of flow chart. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this along with the PRD would be very good for the developer to know exactly what you want. If you actually show up to a interview with a developer and you've already given them this, you've given them a day to look over it all, and they've agreed on it, they think it's good, they sent you back some questions. Now we can have our interview. Now you can say, okay, what do you have any questions on this? And then if they don't have any questions, okay, then you go down that list of questions that I sent earlier, okay? And you say, all right, how would you handle this user story? How would you handle this? How long is this going to take you to do? How long what tools you're going to use? What methods are you going to use? Okay, you're using VoiceFlow, and then like just figure out, okay, how are you going to do these things? And if you don't know what questions they ask, well, you got two options. One, you can join school. I have an entire list of interview questions. It's called Jofu's interviewing guide for no code developers. And it breaks down it's like 50 questions that I generally ask. And I like to ask the same questions over and over again. That's just a general thing that I like to personally do because I like to field the same questions so I can understand okay, this person gave me a wildly different answer than everybody else did. Why'd you give me an answer? And it may be a better answer, but why is it so much different? And I can kind of dig into that question, right? So with this right here, this user journey, it just kind of breaks down that what I was showing earlier, just in a very visual manner, just a visual landscape. And let me actually show you how I did this because FigJam is really cool. Let me actually see if I can do it again. It might not make it again. No, it won't because I did brainstorm. Yeah, it's gonna make this. This is another user document that I made with AI. Yes, it's making one all over again. Anyways, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll stop here. What we'll do is in the next video, I will go probably more into the ICP, and then we'll look into VoiceFlow a little bit, and we'll see okay, how would we actually design? How did we go from here to VoiceFlow? And interview some devs and say, okay, this is what this should look like. Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, don't worry about the like button. Join the school if you really enjoyed this. If you're like 20 minutes into this video, you would probably love our school. We do 3 coaching calls a week. It's really cool. It's really awesome. And then we do, we have stuff like this. All these templates and all that junk is in there for your consumption. All right, cool. Well, if you enjoyed this, I hope you have the best day ever. Peace out.